manipulator whom the doctor had placed entirely too much trust in. "You will not leave this room under any circumstances. You will not sleep tonight. If you need to use the facilities, you text me, and I will take your place for the moment. Understood?" Ramon nodded, looking relieved that the doctor had moved beyond fury to the next steps. "How long before the girls will be ready?" LeBlanc asked. 30 minutes. Get them prepped." LeBlanc shut the exam room door behind him and walked across the hall to the restroom. He locked the door and felt the nausea pushing up into his throat. The room turned gray around the edges, and he felt certain that he was going to pass out. He dropped to his knees and grasped the commode, heaving up his dinner, hoping the patient in the waiting room couldn't hear through the walls. Once the heaving finally subsided and he felt his blood pressure stabilizing, he stood at the sink to splash cold water on his face, cupping water in his hands to rinse his mouth. Ashamed at his weakness, he stared at his sallow face and slapped his skin to revive some color. At 42, his hair had prematurely turned a charcoal gray, but the long strands over his collar accentuated eyes so dark they appeared black. His wife, who claimed she fell in love first with his French accent and then with his doctoral degree, said his hollow cheeks and pronounced nose gave him the look of an aristocrat. He stood tall, forcing himself to look the part of the successful doctor, the aristocrat. "This will not break me. I am doing this for the good of humanity." Dr. LeBlanc stuck his head into the waiting room and waved at Thatch Roderick. "Be right with you." Thatch was a 76-year-old man who appeared to be in the prime of his life. White hair in a short crew cut, dress slacks and a white polo, tanned with the lightest scent of cologne. He presented himself at all times as one who took great pride in his appearance and his conduct. Thatch was a man with enough money to expect and get perfection, until his memory started to slip, causing the police to ferry him home on several occasions, with his wife frantic that he was in the beginning stages of Alzheimer's. Thatch had joined the study 6 months ago. He knew he was the first patient to receive the alternative treatment and was expecting a complete reversal of the symptoms. The doctor logged into the receptionist's computer, then logged into his overseas account, double-checking that the deposit had been received that day. Dated 15 July, a payment of $100,000 was showing. He wouldn't have turned Thatch away from the treatment, but the money was certainly a relief. He sighed and grabbed a breath mint from a nearby candy jar. At least one thing had gone as planned. The men shook hands and spoke briefly of Thatch's golf game and his recent trip to Argentina. LeBlanc led Thatch down the hallway, feeling his skin crawl as he walked past the exam room on the left that housed the little girls. Dr. LeBlanc's practice was small, just 2 exam rooms and the procedure room, along with the customary receptionist and waiting areas, and the records and storage rooms. But it was large enough to conduct research that had the potential to skyrocket LeBlanc to the top of the medical field, giving his work the attention that it deserved. LeBlanc struggled with the irony of his situation. When funding for the research drove all else, decisions were made that were not always best for those involved, but were critical for the good of the masses. The work with children had taken much rationalizing, but he was confident that the potential for good far outweighed the negative. The children wouldn't be harmed in any way, and he felt he could sleep soundly at night knowing that. Unlike the bright hallway, the procedure room was dimly lit, with large machines hulking along the periphery of the room, each with its own special function, highly technical and capable of miracles. The room felt serene, as if every item had been chosen with the utmost care, with cost of no concern. A patient had told him once that the room was like stepping into a church sanctuary, and LeBlanc often had that same sense, although not on this night. LeBlanc pointed to the gown that his receptionist had left on the patient.